Things like the Man King Massacre. Like I said, what you have is you have a few groups of pretty much Yankees, people from Harvard and Yale, certain people running around, um, basically people connected there, the people around John McCain and Richard Nixon and Jimmy Carter. Very bad people that pardoned themselves after the fact, that made themselves look like heroes. Realistically, it was the Irish and the people of Belfast Yard, and also LC Belfast Yard, and some Irish that basically liberated some weapons and also made some weapons as well. Like I said, we needed guns. We needed to make weapons. We needed to make tanks. So the LC shipyard basically went from basically being a shipyard to pretty much producing tanks. If you look at Belfast and the LC shipyard, you'll notice that they were making tanks, guns, artillery pieces, mostly machine guns, and also basically some cannons, and also tanks. Lots and lots of tanks for the Irish. The Germans went there, and we were in a state of a war with the black people. And we needed to basically be able to take them out. So in order to do that, we started making tanks. Lots and lots of tanks. What is known as the IRA, basically, tank yard, or the Russian tank yard, was actually the LC shipyard. Big, beautiful ships and lots of tanks. Like I said, what is basically a Titanic-sized ship, only in tanks. We had to defend ourselves, so we did. Like I said, along with Germany and Russia and a few other places, we started making tanks because we were in a state of war with basically some Yankees and mostly the black race and the brown race. And it was life or death. It was them or us, like I say. The Japanese had nothing to do with anything. I love the Japanese, I adore Japanese, and I am very sorry. I couldn't save everyone all at once. I saved a lot of people, I guess you could say. Like I say, I was just, I wasn't even into war. I wasn't even into this stuff. I had battleships for basically for digging canals. I had bombers for digging canals. I wasn't really, like I say, you take a bomb and you drop it and it hits the rock and goes boom and it busts the rock open. Mostly they're just shell casings for explosives, to do shape charges into rock because it busted out the rock really easily. It was just basically a delivery system for penetrating the ground and penetrating rock. That's what I did. That's what I used the bombs for. My bombers would fly over the canals where the rock was, and they would drop the bombs on the hard rocks. Boom, 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 and it would bust open the rocks. That's what I did. That's what we did. That's all we did. We weren't into war. We didn't kill people. I hated death. I was a pacifist. But we found ourselves in a state of war. Like I say, me and the Irish would say the same thing. We weren't going to just stand idly by while women and children were being slaughtered and killed, no matter who they were. So, I converted my ship over. My factory over. The LC shipyard became the LC military production site for all military. Anyway, Japan would follow suit. We were at war. And we didn't exactly know who we were at war with, exactly. The Irish said the blacks. It's the blacks. Or the Yanks. But who exactly that was. Anyway. The Irish would say, children are dying out there. Anyway, I wasn't just going to stand by. And most people didn't even know who was on our side and who wasn't. It was a bad time. I did the best I could. saved as many as I could. Like I said at one point in time, my mine shafts were opened for women and children and people that wanted to seek shelter. People remember this. I opened the mines so people could escape those who had guns, and I said, they're gonna have to come at us one at a time in those mine shafts. My miners knew them best of all. They had been working them, so you could say I had a lot of miners. They hid in my mine shafts and inside my tunnels, inside my basement, inside my bases. Anyway, we didn't have a lot of guns, but we had enough. I guess you could say at one point in time we did have a lot of guns, a lot of bullets. But I mean, supplies of ammonium nitrate, supplies of sulfur, and that's what, there are times when we ran out of sulfur and everything else. But we had mine shafts, and you could kind of leapfrog across the country in my mine shafts. Most of my mine shafts would go across, long distances. We might have even been shipping stuff by waterway. It's hard to say exactly. There are a lot of things that happened that nobody knew about, like shutting down the water down to less flow. Like I said, there were tunnels that were only kept half full so we could float supplies through them. Just put the stuff in one side and wait. A couple hours later, it pops up the other side in a barrel. We had these grates, and the barrels would float along until they hit the grate, and then they would stop, and then somebody would go out and grab the barrel and pull it over, and put it on this little rock ledge, and then they would ferry it up, and that was the gunpowder. We did everything underground. That's what they didn't know. It took the Yankees and the blacks years to figure out that we were actually moving everything by tunnel. Everything in the old mine shafts. Like I said, there's mine shafts, there's waterways, or mine shafts that go across the country. We knew where they all were, so we held out as long as we could, and my people, so they couldn't take they couldn't take the factories. Anyway, long since over with, though. Anyway. But that's what happened during World War I, World War II, and Vietnam, and some people on the surface died, and like I said, we couldn't be everywhere at once. We couldn't save everyone. I wanted to. That's why they wanted to kill me so bad. Because I was the one that I could help, and I was helping. Like the Irish said, I don't care where you're from. We still, they're just women and children. And they're being killed by the thousands. For no other reason than, I don't know, the houses they were living in. The fact that they wouldn't bow down. Nobody would know my anger. Like I said, it was a deep roar that just kind of got louder in myself. To the point where I stopped caring about pacifism. I got to that point where I was just like, shoot him in the head. Even if that means shoot every single one of them in the head. If they make a move, shoot them in the head. Eventually, the blacks would be running scared. Anyway, they wanted to play me for a fool. They wanted to take my kindness and turn it on me. My compassion. Anyway, that's what happened.